Welcome to Rosebud Homestead, and thank you for joining us today for this video. In our community, we focus on self-reliance, food security, and emergency preparedness. And this video is all about food gardening during a drought, because right now, Utah, where we live, is in a terrible drought. And it affects a whole lot of things having to do with our self-reliance and food security, and even emergency preparedness. So we hope so much that if you appreciate these videos, please share them with your own friends and community, and like the videos if you do, and then please hit like and make some comments. Let's share our wealth of knowledge, that we have distributed expertise among all of our watchers and listeners and subscribers, which we appreciate very much. So we'll get into what we do to garden, to preserve the health of our food gardens during this drought. In just a minute, we're going to walk around our area where we have our food gardens. And I can tell you it's not a very pretty sight. We've had to make some really hard choices. But first of all, I want to show you the drought in Utah. This is absolutely incredible. Even though for the past 20 years, we sort of have been in the moderate range of drought. There are 4 levels of drought. Moderate is the least destructive. Then it goes to severe, extreme, and then exceptional. Right now, Utah, as of 2 days ago, 58% of our state was at the exceptional level. The exceptional is the darker brown. And this is us right here down in this lower western corner of Utah. And we're smack dab in the middle of this really bad drought. Right now, 76% of the West is experiencing some level of drought. 76%. The state with the worst drought conditions is Arizona, followed by Nevada, New Mexico, and Utah is 4th. So we are the fourth worst state in drought conditions in the country. And right behind us is California. And then it's followed by the other states in the West. So it's pretty desperate. Utah uses the Colorado River for its most reliable water source. Lake Powell is about 2 hours from where we live, and a couple of weeks ago, Jim and I drove by Lake Powell. I have 2 siblings that have houseboats down there, and so we have been down there a lot and out on the lake frequently, and we hardly recognized it when we drove by. The water is so low, there are now land bridges, and just this past week, they closed the boat ramp, the major boat ramp, so you can't even launch your boats anymore down at Lake Powell. And so the drought is very severe. Well, what does that mean for us, for those of us who live in this severe drought condition? Well, we live in quite a small little town, and our water is regulated by a local member water board. And a couple of years ago, our watering expenses really started to rise. We were paying $400 a month for our water, $400 a month. We were watering quite a bit of grass, and our water charges went up this year, not surprising because of the drought, and it would have cost us upwards to $600 a month to keep our grass alive. So we made the choice to not water our grass anymore. And so our yard looks pretty awful, and we're going to go look at it. Jim and the man who helps us out in the yard have spent the last month going around to all of our sprinkler heads and capping them. And we'll show you what things look like outside. So I'll meet you outside. So Jim is just going to pan across our backyard where most of our food gardens are so that you can see the grass that we no longer have. It's dying and then it's blowing away. We have had horrific wind for the past 9 days. This is day 10. It was not supposed to blow, but already it's picking up again. And because of the drought, the wind exacerbates everything and dries everything out so badly. So I'm going to walk you through our little gardens right here, and we'll go pretty quickly. These beds, and I attempt to keep straw on the ground by these plants, and it's only successful right here with the lettuce. Because I can see the blows for the past. I can't keep straw here, and I put it back every single day. Also, we have soaker hoses. We used to do above ground sprinklers here, but this year we have buried everything except they're coming up in places. I need to rebury them. I transplanted the last of the plants from the greenhouse this week. This row right here is some basil mixed in with some onions. This whole plot was about 100 of these onions, but the day after I planted them, it snowed and killed off most of them. I've got lettuce growing here. The lettuce holds the straw up pretty well. And then here is more basil. This is opal basil that I just transplanted, and the wind has just killed it, most of it. These are peppers right here, and then I have a different variety of onions here, and they've been able to hold the straw just fine. In these little raised beds, I've had some success, except this is transplanted basil. I'm just now looking, and it got too cold for it. It got down to 41 last night, and it's wiped out this basil that I have been growing from seed in the greenhouse since January. This is Rob or Rapini. And I'm going to be harvesting those tops and blanching those, and then frying those in a little bit of, well, not super frying, like stir frying those in a little bit of olive oil. Those will be delicious. These are sugar magnolia peas. They have these beautiful purple blossoms on them. And hopefully we'll get some peas soon. So I put straw down all the time to try to manage the water a little bit better. Each of these has a serpentine of the soaker hoses, so that there are 3 rows of soaker hoses below these plants. Now, if you watched our video on container gardening, this was one of the containers that we planted, and it looks like these also have been hurt by the cold night last night. It must have gotten below 41. That's what the weather said this morning when I got up. So I hope that those can recover. This is our extra high raised bed, and it's doing pretty well. These are all cold weather plants. 2 types of beets, and then these are peas that have just started to blossom. And then on the other side we have spinach and some lettuce, really great lettuce growing right here. And we put in position our new raised bed right here. I'll be working on that after a while if it warms up a little bit more today. Over here we have more containers, and those look just fine, but notice I've put straw on the top of those. The marigolds here have suffered again. But let's walk over here through the yard. Sprinklers. It was a rainbird, you know, the kind that goes and goes in a big round circle. So they've capped this off and instead have put just a hose with a drip end over here on the trees, and that's what we're doing to all of our trees. So that helps a lot. Over here we have our fruit tree gills, and I've done a couple of videos on our fruit tree gills. They are still doing great, but again, we used to just water these with rainbirds. And then last year, we put soaker hoses in, and because I had not planned to use soaker hoses, we had to really do a puzzle to get the soaker hoses woven around to hit all of the plants. But the plants are doing really well here, I'm happy to say. We had a late freeze, which has taken out most of our apples. We still have some. over here in the sunflower. This is another fruit tree. Jim, look at our fruit tree right here. Oh my gosh.
Oh.
So our new fruit tree. This is a Fuji apple tree. We'll have to pull it back and stake it. But the cat mint and other things are doing fine. But it looks like I have lost some tomato plants here. It obviously got below 41 last night. I don't know if these can be saved, if there's anything left alive that will go forward. This is lemon balm. It looks like the underparts of the lemon balm are also frozen. But there's plenty of life here, so these are okay. We'll walk over here. This freeze was not predicted. It is the last week in May, and our last freeze date is in April. These tomato plants are okay. And again, these soaker hoses are woven around so that they cover every single one of our, all of these are herbs, and so this is part of our food garden. So this is chives, and this is comfrey. Looks like the edges of those leaves got it a little bit too. This one little tiny patch of grass, Jim planted early in the season and has just babied it. So this little patch of grass is going to be our last bastion of green grass in our yard, and we're going to keep this little plot of grass right here. I told Jim we'll bring a blanket out here and have a little picnic one of these days after the grass gets a little bit stronger. This is one of our fruit trees. This is a plum tree. You can see the damage that the wind has done. Look at all the plums that the wind has blown. Now I'm probably going to get a little emotional because I'm looking at my tomatoes over here. And these I planted as seed back in February. And it looks like the freeze got to almost all of them as well. But these are not soaker hoses, these are drip hoses. This is just crazy. It got all of these, except it didn't get this one. This is a big boy tomato. And it looks like I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the other side. And then this one on this and this one, and maybe, so I've got maybe 6 or 7 tomato plants out of about 30 that I've planted right here. I had no idea it was going to freeze last night. So you can bet I'm going to be covering what's left of these tonight so we can maintain them. So the drought has wreaked havoc on us in more than one way. But, you can see over here, our asparagus patch is now, I'm letting them go ahead and go to seed so that they can feed the roots during the rest of the summer. And then I'm going to mulch this whole area, and hopefully they'll come back even stronger in the spring. We had quite a bit of damage from gophers this year. But it is possible to mitigate the effects of the drought by using conservation type watering processes, soaker hoses and drip hoses, and then cutting down, of course, water usage on things that are not completely necessary, like grass. Even though we love it, we can't eat it. And so if things get really bad, then we want to be focusing on our food security so that we can continue to grow our food. So walk over here with me for just a minute. So next steps for us are, we have our Vigo Garden extra high raised bed in place, and we'll put another one butted up behind it, and then we'll put another one here. And once we are ready to take out those plants and harvest everything, we're going to take down that one and put another Vigo Garden next to it. So we'll have 4 Vigo Gardens right there. And when we do that, we're also going to set up this kind of a trellis, and we'll make a video on how we do these. Meanwhile, we've got great lettuce that I'm harvesting every single day. And also over here, the beet greens and the spinach. And so we're doing fine. I have 7 more tomato plants right there that should be just fine in containers. And one of the things that I really preach all the time is redundancy, because looks like I've lost most of my main tomatoes over there. But because I have done redundancy and poked them around in my fruit tree gills, and I'm doing some in container gardens, hopefully we will still have a good tomato harvest. Looks like we've lost most of our plums and probably most of our apples. We'll be okay because we have a good food supply stored already, and we will just work with whatever we can produce this season. So thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you at our next video.